My name is Muzita Vintage Mteto, and this afternoon I get to hang out with an amazing family in studio that's all the way from Florida, where they decided to move their whole world to South Africa.
Yes.
I found your story very interesting, but first of all, just say hello to our listeners this afternoon.
Hello, how are you all doing today? I'm so just honored to be able to be here with you guys today. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity. And
Absolutely. Heaven connections.
Yes. Yes.
Talk to us this afternoon, Christy, just to tell us about your journey, your background, who you are, and what brought you to this land of cold weather.
Yes, so it's actually pronounced Crystal.
Crystal.
So,
yeah.
no, and you're fine. A lot of people do Christy. So, yes, I am 36 years old. We moved here from Florida to South Africa. What led us here was literally, I walked in the house and I knew a change was coming, and my husband said, we should move to Johannesburg, South Africa. That is what God said. And I said, okay, say less, let's do it. And it's cool because for me, I actually grew up as a preacher's kid. And so my father, he did ministry. He started me out traveling, doing missions from the age of 7 years old. And so I spent a lot of my childhood just pursuing God. And then I hit those young adult years where I kind of stopped pursuing God and started pursuing self and, just allowed myself to really get distracted. But thankfully to God's grace, his love that pursued me, I got back on the right track, and my relationship with God, a lot through community, through church, being loved well, shown the love of God. And then I met my husband. We met, got engaged, and married in 9 months. We just celebrated 9 years of marriage this year. Yes.
Wow.
And so it's just definitely a very transformative journey that my life has been with God. But I definitely think all the things that I have been through, endured, and really overcome with the power of God has been to help others be able to pursue purpose and live the life that God has for them.
Wow. We were intrigued when we were doing just a normal small research with my content creator, and we're thinking, especially we were intrigued by the part where you are a pastor's child growing up from that kind of environment. How has that helped tailor make your faith as well?
I think that one of the things that the word says is, put those seeds in a child, and when they're old, they will not depart from it.
Wow.
And so really that rooting and that grounding, no matter how far the enemy tried to pull me away from my love for God, my purpose in life, God's roots, those roots that my parents instilled in me, always brought me back to God. And in my lowest points, I really was like, okay, you know what? It's God that's going to have to get me through this. And I think that from an early age, being able to know the truth about who God is and the power of God's love that exists and wants to pursue and chase after us, that's what allowed me to really get back on the right track.
Wow, I really love that. And then the fact that you're moving to South Africa, had you been to South Africa before?
No, when my husband said, let's move to South Africa, we had never been to Johannesburg, ever. So he said that in September, and then we were like, okay, so let's go there for the first time. So then in October of 2022, we came and visited for a week. Both were like, okay, we sought counsel, wise counsel. We believe in being accountable. So we sought counsel. They said, you need to go. You need to let God confirm this. And so in that trip, God truly confirmed what it was that he wanted us to move here. And I tell you, on the plane ride back, I literally wept. I cried flying back to the States because I had such a holy conviction that I knew this is where we were supposed to be. And so we visited again in February, started getting things set up, figuring out where we were going to live and get the kids' passports and everything situated. And then in August, here we moved, and now we've been here for a month.
Wow! And how has the month been? 30 days over, just a little bit over 30 days.
Yes, it's been phenomenal. Honestly, I can say that God's hand is on this move.
Wow.
I think sometimes as a believer, we take for granted the importance of positioning ourselves to be where God wants us to be. And we spend so much energy, time, and effort, resources trying to kick down doors in the wrong place. But if we would just I know we said like winners say yes to God. If we would just give God that yes to reposition us to where he wants us, doors are going to start to open that you never could have opened yourself.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's been phenomenal. We're spending so much time with our kids. We've been out to the farmer's market, hanging out. My son just had a birthday yesterday. He turned 5.
Man. Happy birthday, man. Happy birthday.
So, yeah. It's been great. We're growing spiritually. We're growing as a family closer together. Like, it's been awesome.
And what informed the choice of where you stay? In terms of the city, it could have been Cape Town, but you are in Johannesburg.
Oh, literally, my husband heard God say Johannesburg. And from that moment, we started to Google. Look on Google Maps. Okay, what does Johannesburg look like? Yeah. And I think, that's a privilege because, with Abraham, God was just like, go to the land I'm going to show you. So at least we didn't have to buy round the world tickets and just keep searching for, okay, is this it, God? Is this it, God? Yeah. But he did speak very clearly and give us a location. Well, give my husband the location. And, I believe in submitting one to another as a unit, as a married unit. And so I was like, okay, he has a location. God, show us what's next. And so that's what decided it. God said, and then he provided, because where God guides, he will provide.
100%, which is obviously a part of the journey itself. We need the provision of God.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a Winners Wednesday, and today we decided to take a journey on the power of saying yes to God.
Yes.
What has that benefited you and your family in saying yes to God? You could have been sitting in Florida. What season is it right now in Florida?
It is fall. It's just now going into fall. But in Tampa, it's perfect weather year round. A nice 80 degrees.
That's beautiful.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah. So what has been for you the benefit of saying yes to God so far as a family? I know it's been a month, but already there's got to be something that God has already done that shows you, Bona, if I not say yes.
So many things. So many things. The series of my journey with my husband, I'm just going to rewind just a little bit.
100%.
So saying yes to God is how I met my husband. I was actually living in another state. In Maryland. I had only been there for about a month. I went to a conference in Atlanta, and God said, you need to move back here, and you need to go to school. I had no desire to go back to school to get my master's. I had no desire to move back to Atlanta. The last time I had left Atlanta, because I went for college, I was like, I'm never coming back here. Whenever I come back here, I end up in a trap of the enemy, and I'm never coming back. But I know God said to come back. And so I moved from Maryland back to Atlanta, and within 2 weeks of moving back, I met my husband.
Wow. That's a
now, the fun part is, God didn't say, Crystal, move to Atlanta and you're going to meet your husband. He just said, move to Atlanta and go to school. And that school is where I met my husband. And so one of the things I would say is the power in saying yes to God is trusting his process. Trusting your life to his process. Because sometimes we think saying yes is going to open the door that leads to everything that we wanted. We think, and he's going to lay it all out. No, he wants to know you're going to trust him.
Wow.
And so, again, even moving here, our yes required to move here, we had to sell our home. We sold our car. We unenrolled our children in school. We had to leave our jobs. We had to do so many things to commit to the yes to come here that, we got to a point of no returning. Peter, he's walking with Jesus. He's like, where else am I supposed to go? Like, I'd already said, I'm out here now, And so even saying yes to God and coming here, my husband, he's had the opportunity to be on the radio. That's something he's always desired to do. Wow. We've been able to really just speak with people, pray with people. I think get into a space where we can represent God well. on our various social media platforms, encourage people in their walk of faith. And I feel like your yes to God should always point back to the glory of God. And so being here, we've been able to do that. And for that is a major win.
And what keeps you standing and believing in the yes? Because sometimes in a journey, obviously, now you're looking at that car, you love the car, and I have to sell my car, man.
Yes.
Those thoughts come to your mind. And you're selling your house. You maybe worked very hard to get that house, and then you feel like, ooh, but should I really give it up? What keeps you stern in saying, I've got to say yes?
So did fear attack? Yes. There were moments. I was like, oh my gosh, there were nights I literally cried because I was like, God, like, is this what you're really saying to do? Just wanting to be sure. But I would say one of the things that keeps me firm is remembering that I serve a God who has already completed the work. We have to keep in mind that we don't serve a God that's still figuring it out. Even though we're still figuring it out, we serve a God that has finished the work. He's completing the work in us, but he has finished the work. And when you realize when you're saying yes to him, you're saying yes to entering into the completed work. That means you will win in the end. It's easier to say yes. I'm saying yes to a sure win.
Wow.
And so whenever I get nervous, whenever I'm feeling unsure, I remind myself, I serve a God that's already finished the work.
I love that. I serve a God who's already finished the work.
Yes.
He's not working on it. It's
right.
done already. But let's bring in the factor of family.
Yes.
Let's encourage somebody today, this afternoon, that there's power in saying yes, because still there's family involved. How do you deal with that in terms of your family? Like, hey, she's taking a trip to South Africa.
Yes, I think that one thing you need to do is trust the timeline. In October when we came, I'm the type, if God said do it, let's go tomorrow. Why put out for tomorrow what you can do today? But it actually took almost about 10 months from the time God said to come for us to actually get here.
Yeah.
And I think that in that timeline, God gives you time to get things in order. It gave time for my parents, my husband's parents, our children to accept and process and see God reveal what his plans were. So of course we're moving to South Africa, and they're like, what? Are you sure? Is that what God really said? There's nerves, right? All these things, but those months that went by gave time for them to process. And even though they didn't necessarily fully understand, even when we moved, they were able to get to a place of, we trust the God in you, and we can see that you are truly committed to what God said. So I would say when you're dealing with family, think about the time that God will allow for them to also be able to accept and understand. I gave time for our children. We told them months before we left. So they had time to, make sure they were spending time with friends that they really wanted to see. And so not taking for granted that just because they're children, they don't need time to process as well. So those were some of the practical things that we did. They had a lot of sleepovers with friends before we left. We had a lot of conversations with our pastors, with our parents, with our family before we left, just to try to help them understand what God was leading us into as much as we could.
All right, let's take it now and bring it to South Africa. You've arrived in South Africa and it's been good to you.
Yes.
hoping it's been good to you.
Yes, there have been challenges to overcome, but as far as a country, we love it. We love it.
All right, let's take the power of yes to now getting into a community of different people.
Yes.
Now you are sitting amongst people who speak different languages.
Yes.
And you've said yes to God. And you are in this platform in a space where you're in unfamiliar ground.
Right.
How do you keep standing on unfamiliar ground? Let's empower someone this afternoon.
Yeah, so I would say when you're in a new space and you're looking to figure out how do I sustain myself, you got to look back to God. One of the things you need to do is you need to write down things that God has said to you concerning where he's sending you before you even get there. Because those words that he already said are going to sustain you in the season that you're in. And the words he continues to speak to you will sustain you in the next season. One of the things that God said to me was, then prepared you for now, and now is preparing you for next. And so you have to remember, what did God say before I got here? So when you're in the midst of challenges, because the enemy is going to try. He's going to try to do things. Our apartment flooded, so we had to move to another apartment. It hasn't been a, cakewalk. There have been things that happen, but you have to remember, no, I know God told me to do this. I know he told me to say this, and he is going to be the one that has to sustain what he said. Don't get into self-effort. When you start trying to figure out how to do it yourself instead of relying on God, that's where it's going to end up in a mess. So the best thing that you can do in a new space, in a new place, in a new season is say, okay, God, I speak Jesus over my day. I wake up and I say, Jesus, over my day, over my decisions, over everything I say, over everyone I come in contact with, let you be the one that leads and guides me. And that is so important when you're in a completely different environment, where there's completely different language, where you don't know, everything that's happening. You
and people
have
expect
to.
You to know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So many people come and they're like talking to me, and normally they're speaking to me in Zulu, and I'm like, no. We were at the mall, and somebody started talking to me. And I didn't know what she was saying. And I was like, oh, no, I don't understand. I only speak English. And she literally just started laughing. And I was like, okay, but I still don't understand. After this, can you say it in English? Because I want to learn. I do. But, it's only been a month. I haven't had a lot of time. I've been trying to get settled. But, so it's different. But I just have to rely on God. I have to rely on the one who...
If you're joining us for the first time, welcome to the Midday Hangout. And this afternoon, we get to hang out with Mrs. Jones and the family. The family is right here as well.
Yes.
That's something that I really love about family. For me, when I saw you guys outside, it showed me a unit. These people are united.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I know obviously on the journey, there's yes. You have said yes to God so many times. Let's talk about the disadvantages of saying no.
Oh my God.
Have you walked in the part of your life where, you know what, you look back and be like, I shouldn't have said no?
Have I? Have I? Oh my gosh. I think that, oh God. There's so many times. I told you, I spent that season where I was basically running from God, and I said no a lot of times. And saying no a lot of times will lead you to being in relationships you shouldn't be in, that leave you heartbroken, hurt. It will lead you to being broke financially.
True.
Because God is telling you one thing and you just go in the opposite way. So it'll mess up your money. This is one of the things that my dad used to always say, that I say, sin will take you farther than you want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. And the truth is, when you're saying no to God, you're saying yes to sin. And so when you enter into that sin, again, it's a spiral. It is a downward spiral that just keeps sucking you in. And then you're now trying to climb out of it, not realizing the more self-effort you use, the more you're entering into a sinful state, And so saying no to God, it got me off the path of purpose.
I love that. Yeah.
Because and it's not that complex, because if a yes to God leads me into his will, leads me into purpose, leads me into all the places I need to be, a no to God does the opposite. But the thing is that people have to be aware of, initially your no will make you feel like, oh no, I'm doing the right thing. That's a great way to know, is this a yes that I should be giving to God? Yeses to God often come with delayed gratification.
Talk to us about that.
So normally it's and you can see it in the Bible. Like, let's look at David, for example. The prophet came, he anointed him king. David said, yes, I'll take this on. And then he went back into the field. It wasn't until much later, years later, that he got the opportunity to even show that he had the confidence and the backing of God to then defeat Goliath. And then there was still more time before he ended up as king. Like there was such a delay in the gratification of him saying, yes, God, I'll accept this calling of you anointing me as king. When we say a wrong yes, which is a no to God, there's normally instant gratification. The enemy is always trying to get us to get that instant gratification. You feel lonely, and so you call somebody up that you don't have no business talking to, but you're getting that instant gratification of companionship. You feel like, I need this money right now, and so you make this bad business deal so you can get money really quick, but it's not going to work out well in the long run. Yeses to God often come with delayed gratification. And you know, we talk about the and suddenlies that happen in people's lives, but normally that started with a yes that you gave a while ago. A yes that you said to God a while ago. You know, I talk about how quickly I met my husband and everything like that. I was single for 3 years. 3 years before I met my husband, but it started with a yes. 3 years prior to me meeting him started with a yes of me saying, I'm going to commit to celibacy. I'm going to commit to not dating around. I'm going to commit to focusing my desires, my heart's affection towards you, God. That was the beginning of that yes. And it was a 3-year gap until I actually met my husband. There's a delayed gratification normally when we say yes to God.
Wow. I'm so much intrigued by the conversations that you drive, and intrigued by how you deliver it, and really had to bring you to this platform so that you can deliver this to the listeners as well. But I want to take a journey, want to pay some bills, want to come back. I want you to give us some pointers on how to keep on standing during that season where you've mentioned that point where you've said yes to gratification. How do I remain standing on his word, or how do I make it? Because look at David. He had to go back, keep working on in the field and taking care of whatever the father wanted him to do at that time. Be the boy who's being sent by the father. Yet he's been told that he's king.
Yes. He's a whole king tending the sheep.
Yeah, tending the sheep. Let's pay some bills. And when we get back, Mrs. Jones is going to give us some guides on how to keep on standing from the season of saying yes and to your season of gratification. It can be a long time, because sometimes it can take you 13 years, 20 years to get to the gratification. But Mrs. Jones has got some keys for us this afternoon, you all. So do stay tuned in. If you've got any questions and any appreciation, do send it through to 067-153-1089. It's the Midday Hangouts. How much it brings you to a place of victory. And being our theme of the day, always on a Wednesday, we call it our Winners Wednesday, where we talk about all keys about winning. And this afternoon, we're graced by the presence of an amazing family, the Jones, in the building. And the representative of the family this afternoon, of course, being Mrs. Jones. And it's so much of an honor to have you with us this afternoon.
I'm honored to be here. Honored and humbled.
So talk to us then about the season between you now saying yes to God and the season of gratification.
And so that season, I think one of the best ways to navigate that season is to understand the process of God.
Yeah.
I pulled out some notes because I have notes.
I love that.
But understanding the process of God. And so I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, but one of the things I started really studying the process of God in Genesis chapter 1, because you have to think about it. God, the creator, he literally could have made everything in a snap, but he went through a process. He went through a process.
Wow.
And I think that he did this intentionally because he wanted us to see how it would work, a reflection of how it would work when we live out our lives. And so first, God had a thought. He had a thought about what he wanted. Then he said something. He said, let there be light. And then there was light. And then as you see him unfolding creation, he makes sure there's provision for what it is that's coming next. He didn't put Adam and Eve on the earth before there were plants or animals or food to eat. That's not how it works. Wow. And so I think one of the things that you can really do first, go look in Genesis, but look at the actual process of God. How he actually does things. First there is a vision. Then there is a word. Then there is provision. And so when you're even in this waiting period, sometimes it could seem like a long time if you're just drifting. But if you see that, okay, you know what? God is putting things together in order in the way that he does process, it gives you the ability to wait well. Because it's like, we couldn't move here before we had provision, finances to move here.
Yeah.
So even with us coming, God told me 3 things before we moved here that he wanted us to do. And he said, Crystal, I want you to get baptized. I want you to get your kids situated. And I want you to sell your house, or our house. And so one of the things for me, I love to get baptized when I go into new seasons with God. I feel like it is a public indication of me saying yes to the new season that God is bringing me into. And, you go down and you come up and I'm like, God, let it shed away all things from my old season that I don't need to bring into the new. And so, that's something I do in my walk with God when I go into new seasons. He told me to get our kids in order. So we had to get their passports situated and visas and all of these things. And he said to sell the house. And, that's the provision side of things. And so we had to navigate that, selling our home, which that was a yes that we said 3 years prior. We were living in an apartment. God said, buy a house. I communicated to my husband. I said, listen, we need to buy a home. Whatever we can afford. It wasn't the most lavish, fancy thing on earth, but it was something that was good for us. And it was intentional by God. Sometimes we think that a yes to God is going to allow us to enter into the most glamorous season of our lives. It wasn't the most glamorous home. It was a nice home that we can live in well. But that yes provided for the provision we would need 3 years later to move here. And so we have to know that the yes today is leading to the provision for tomorrow in various areas of our lives. And so those were 3 things that God told me to do. He told us to do. And so we did those things, but understanding the process of God and how he works, that is what allowed us to do that. And one of the other things that I would say allows you to wait well is in the book of Nehemiah. I love the story of Nehemiah. He's building the wall. And one of my favorite parts are when Tobias and Sanballat came and they were like, hey, come down and talk to us, Nehemiah. Come down here. And they really just wanted him to stop. The enemy is always going to send attacks to try to get you to stop what you're doing. And Nehemiah, one of the most amazing scriptures in the Bible, Nehemiah's like, why should I come down and talk to you? I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. And I think in some of my hardest waiting moments, because it's not easy to wait. Anybody says it's easy to wait, I don't know, I'm suspect. Waiting is not easy. Even when you know you heard from God, even when you know you're doing the right thing, there are so many attacks that come while you're waiting, but you have to say, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. And the only thing that gives you the ability to say that is when you're doing something that is beyond you. My husband and I both knew us coming to Johannesburg was not just about our family doing something different. It was about becoming a representation of God's glory here on the earth and shining a light like a city on the hill that can't be hidden, that he wanted to do through our lives. And so that gives you the tenacity and everything that you need to be able to continue to wait when it's beyond you. If what you're doing is just about you having more money, you having a different life, you doing fill in the blank, then it's easy to give up on you. But you're not going to be able to give up on the people of God, on others, on a plan that God has for you. Because even then, God is going to chase you down. And he's going to pursue you. And he's going to say, no, we're going to bring this back in. And you're going to do what I called you to do. So I would say that's the other thing. Serving and knowing you're doing something that's greater than just you helps you wait well.
Wow. Waiting well. That's one of the important keys of becoming a winner. Wait well.
Yes, winners wait well. That could hashtag that. Winners wait well.
Hashtag that. So another important thing that I'm from the conversation that we're having, that I'm getting, is the power of actually having the right person with you on the journey. Someone who understands the power of the yes to God. Because it was very easy for you to say, I ain't moving to South Africa.
Right.
Better get yourself another wife.
Yes.
Easier for him also to say, we ain't selling the house, we're moving. We'd rather rent it out.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
What is the power behind saying, being partnered with the right people on your journey?
Oh my gosh. No, it's so important, and not just important in partnering with the right spouse, but partnering with the right friends, partnering with the right leadership. There were people that I didn't talk to at all about our journey moving to Africa. The details, the hard times, the challenges, I didn't say anything to them. And it's not because I did not love them or I did not care for them, but I knew the season that I was in, the type of people that I needed to surround myself with. And God will highlight to you. He will put a pause on your mouth. When you begin to open up, you're going to, oh man, I met this person. And I had a friend when I met my husband, prior to us getting married. And I said, girl, I met this guy and I know he's going to be my husband. And this was, again, only maybe like a week after we met. And she was like, I don't know about that. I don't know, girl. Maybe you should see about something else. Like, she had all this stuff to say, and she wasn't trying to be hurtful. But once she was coming from a place of hurt, because she had dealt with a lot of damage and hurtful relationships in her life. And I could have let that steer me, and I wouldn't be married to the amazing man that I'm married to today. And so you have to know where people are in their lives and allow God to sift and show you, who can I share this with? You know, the Bible says, don't cast your pearl before the swine. Like, who can I share what I'm doing with right now? Who can God highlight? Who can be on this journey with me? And I think, again, even especially when it comes to marriage, you're looking to connect yourself with someone for life. My dad always said, investigate before you invest. Investigate before you invest. You need to pray. One of the first things I did within a month of us meeting, I took him up to meet a pastor that's been so instrumental in my life. One of my mom's closest friends. I took him to meet her. I said, you got to meet her. You got to meet her, and you got to meet several other people real quick. But there were people that he wanted me to meet, because you can't always just rely on yourself to know everything. And so you need to have accountability. That is going to help you choose the right community.
Wow.
Accountability helps you choose the right community. I keep that accountability around me because I know in and of myself, I can't always see my own weaknesses. I can't always see when I'm giving too much of myself or, something like that. So accountability is very important as well when it comes to helping understand who should be in your community.
Wow. Accountability and, time. Time flies when
I know.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's been so wonderful having you in studio, and thank you so much for tuning in. But we're not gone yet. We're just going to pay one bill, and when we get back, I want Crystal to wrap this all up. Crystal to wrap it up for you in a nice bowl and deliver it.
Okay.
That's what she does for a living. She just has this way of delivering the simplest of scriptures, and it really breaks you when you listen to how she speaks about certain topics, just like how she's spoken about the power of saying yes this afternoon, beyond what we had actually thought about. She's taken it and delivered it beautifully. And this afternoon, before she leaves this building, we've got to allow her to get into the space and deliver a word for you from God.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yes.
Beautiful. That's what we're doing after this bill. We'll be right back. Alrighty, it's a Wednesday, a Winners Wednesday, and today we took a tour into the conversation around the power of saying yes to God. And this was driven by the journey of the Mr. and Mrs. Jones, as well as their family. They left Florida in the United States of America and moved to South Africa, a place where God had led them to. Yes. Take it away, just to inspire somebody this afternoon with a word that God has given for our listeners today.
So definitely I feel like you said, winners say yes to God, and we have to realize as believers that when we said yes to salvation, when we said yes to becoming believers, that was the first of many opportunities to say yes. And so when you start to think about, okay, God, should I say yes? You just have to remember there's always going to be more opportunities to say yes. And I think sometimes one of the things that makes us afraid to say yes to God is we're like, did we really hear from God? God, was that really you? And I think that one of the things I had to learn is one, the more we know the heart and character of God, the more we're going to understand when it's him that's asking to give a yes. The more we understand the process of God, we know it's not about instant gratification, but the gratification that will lead to us being sustained throughout our lives. And God will journey with us well. When you say yes, God is going to be able to trust you with more, lead you more into the desires of your heart, lead you more into the places that you never thought you could be. As I said before, we don't serve a God that's figuring it out. We serve a God that has completed the work. And so if we can lean into understanding that he has already completed everything that he wants to do with us and in us, all we have to do is keep saying yes. It gives us the boldness and the confidence to say, God, I know that you've got me. Even if you're not sure, even if you make a mistake, God is looking at your heart's posture. My dad always said, if you make a wrong decision, just make another decision. God will cover you in your ignorance if your heart is postured properly towards him. And so I'm never afraid of saying a yes, I believe is God, and it end up being wrong. At the end of the day, I told my husband, maybe we move out to Johannesburg and we're there for a little bit. Things don't go exactly as we planned and we have to come back. God knows we're willing. God knows we're willing to go wherever he says go, do whatever he says do, and God is going to be faithful to cover and keep us as long as our hearts are postured toward him. So if your heart is postured towards God, you can know that you will always be safe in your yes.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for empowering us today. We look forward to have you and the family again.
Yes.
That's an open door. The Midday Hangout is an open door. You're welcome to come through when the Lord has given you a word in season. Hope Alive Radio is definitely going to be there for you on this part of the journey that it's an amazing journey to experience.
Yes.
We're looking at it from the outside. We got to get a feeling of how it is on the inside by what you've shared with us today, and you've equipped us to become the better versions of ourselves. And before you leave, this one is for you and your whole family, the production team and everybody else in the other rooms. We always do this for artists, but we really want to take it on a different journey this afternoon.
I don't know what's about to happen.
Don't worry. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, and to the family. Sir, are the best there is. Madam, the best there was.
Thank
Guys,
you.
you are the best there will ever be.
Oh, you guys are making me cry.
Continue to pursue God in everything that you do. One more, Debs. Let's give them one more. You had everything in the world and you chose God over everything else in the world.
Yeah.
And for me, that means a whole lot to the kingdom. And if that means so much to me, a human being, how much more to God in heaven?
Yeah. Wow.
May God fulfill the desires of your heart.
Yeah.
And when we meet again next year, right here, may you have seen the greatness of God in this season.
Amen.
Thank you.
We love you guys.
Yeah.
We love you too.
All right, we'll be back after the break. And Mrs. Jones, you can say your goodbyes this afternoon and your final words to our listeners.
Yes, thank you so much.